So at the age of 7, they enter into what's called Sinnu Tamyiz, which is the age of discrimination. They're beginning to understand certain things. Imam al-Ghazali said you can introduce to them now the concept of time in a real way. So they can understand things like that they're in-time creatures, and also the responsibility of actions, although they're not fully responsible yet, because they don't have all of the hard wiring yet. So this fitra, and it's in the chapter called the chapter of the Byzantines or the Europeans. Rome means Europe, it also means the Byzantines. It says that to set your face to the religion, which is the religion of nature, the fitra given by God. And then it says, and do not change that nature, which is an indication that we can alter the fitra of people. And we have thousands of years of anthropological evidence that most cultures were benign cultures. I mean, we have a great deal of evidence. We would like those people who make weapons would like us to believe that we are aggressive by nature. In other words, that by nature we like to inflict violence and aggression. There are many people that there's a vested interest in having that. The truth is that most of the evidence that we have from Aboriginal cultures is contrary to that. The Shoshone Indians, this is a good example of a culture that really rejected violence as an option, right? And there are many African cultures where this is very clearly the case, that violence was seen as surgery, that you did not use that route unless there was no other alternative. Whereas in our culture, it's primary care, right? It's lines in the sand. And anybody who knows Arab psychology knows that you don't draw lines in the sand if you want to stay at the table of dialogue, right? If you want to reach some, and it's really far. I don't want to get into politics, but what happened in 1991 was an act of madness, complete act of madness. And we were, as a culture, collectively drawn into something that had nothing to do with our vested interests, right? And unfortunately, it's still going on. But Arab posturing is, anybody who knows the Arabs, is that they're people that posture. This is part of their nature. And Saddam Hussein, was literally doing a classic Arab posturing, because the OPEC countries reneged on a promise that they made that they would help him with his war debts that were incurred during the Iraqi war. And they reneged on it. And he put his troops there at the border to force their hand. And they were told by our foreign policy here, we're going to stand behind you. You can stand up to him, right? And that was a very easily, not an intractable problem at all. But unfortunately, there are people that have vested interests in using the violent option before the diplomatic options, right? There's a lot of money to be made in war. Bechtel was already before that war began, had contracts with the Kuwaiti government to rebuild their infrastructure, right? So, Thoreau said, an educated soldier is usually called a deserter. Right? If you really know what the fight is about, sorry, count me out on this one, right? What a wonderful world it would be, they say, if somebody called a war and nobody showed up, right? And you know, the ancient peoples, when they used to fight, they had these war bonnets. If it rained, they'd call off the battle. And they used to do, you know, the Prophet Muhammad is seen as this, in the West, as this violent person. Over 23 years, less than 1,200 people were killed in all of the engagements that took place. Less than 1,200. It's recorded, every battle, how many people died. And they actually preferred to have, you know, the heroes would go out and they'd duke it out, and then you win, and they'd all go home, right? And that's, I mean, would that be a great way, right? It's like, Lindbergh said, the America First during World War II. He said it's not their sons that are going to die in this war, right? The warmongers. They never send their sons, right? And that's why the Iroquois nation, in the Iroquois nation, it was the women that were the war council. The women decided whether the nation would go to war with another tribe, with the belief that it was the women who sent their sons to die. Right? And there's the great Greek play. Yeah, thank you. About the women all going on strike. Okay, fine. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The next, these are the two classical divisions. Some will put it into 5 and others 7. 7 is, you know, Shakespeare has the Verona tapestry that has the 7 stages of man. And so it's consistent, some of the Western tradition. But here, 1 through 15, 15 was traditionally more commonly the onset of puberty. It was around that age. Where I was in West Africa, that's pretty much when puberty happens for most of the people there. But you're obviously going to get some are delayed and some are earlier. But it's around that. And this is also consistent with neurological research that indicates that the brain is pretty much by 15, it's fully formulated. And at puberty, there's actually a hormone that's released that will remove, if networking was not done, it removes all the potential. Which is really important why children need so much stimulation in those early periods. And we've shown now, there's an Israeli study that indicated that for the first at least 10 months, there was strong corollary study that showed that children that were breastfed, that their IQs increased about a point for every month that they had mother's milk. And it's interesting also that it's actually a right of a child to be nursed with breast milk. It's a right. And if a woman is not able to do it, then it's the responsibility of the man to find what we used to call wet nurses, which obviously we don't have this anymore. But mother's milk is seen as really important. And in fact, the Arabic word for the actual tit of a woman's breast is halama, which means it's the same root word for compassion and forbearance. And there is a belief, you know, it's what we used to call in this tradition the milk of human kindness, that there's actually that is transmitted to the children through the breast, that there is a transmission of hilm. And it's interesting that historically the wet nurse of the Prophet's name was Halima. That was the name of his wet nurse, was Halima Sa'diyah. And so it's also believed in the Islamic tradition that this hilm, which is forbearance, precedes ilm, which is knowledge. And so the woman for the first 7 years is inculcating forbearance in the child. That is what the child needs to learn in those first 7 years, is how to be a human being. How to actually have the ability to be empathic, compassionate, forbearing, kind, generous. This is what the mother is imparting to the child. And this is why she's been given. And there's a very interesting correlation between the breast and the womb that many women know. The womb in Arabic is rahim, which the root word is compassion. And there is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that God says, I have derived the womb from my name, the merciful. So whoever severs the womb has been severed from my mercy. So the womb is the source of human rahmah. And this is why kinship ties are so important, because if a child does not learn to have mercy at the unit of the family, it will never be able to extend mercy to the greater human family. So in the Islamic tradition, it's essential that a child learns to be compassionate within the family unit. And this is why rahmah is believed to be the dominant sakina. And this is why the Quran says that the male and the female come together with two qualities, mawadda and rahmah. Mawadda is a love that is not lustful. It's transcending the erotic love and moving into the divine love. And this is why one of the names of God is Al-Wadud. It's from the same root, the one who loves divinely. So mawadda, and also the Prophet, peace be upon him, said the best woman was the wadud, this woman that has this divine love, because she will transmit it to her children. And then the second quality of marriage is rahmah, which is compassion and mercy. The two of these result in sakina, which is tranquility. And shakina in the Hebrew tradition, right? Shakina, which descends. The word in Arabic for that marital house is called maskan, which in Arabic means the place of tranquility. So this is what the marital house is, a place where this divine sakina is allowed to descend because of divine love and compassion. And children that grow up in that environment are children that are fitra children, that will have compassion, love, and tranquility. So that when they move out into the dominant culture and society, they're not a threat to people. They're actually a contribution. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said one of the three things that a human being leaves behind that will benefit him in the next life is righteous children. Righteous children. So this stage cannot be underestimated. This stage will actually affect the parents' afterlife if they do it properly. And he also said that people that don't do it properly, they will accrue the wrong actions of their children throughout their lives. So it'll have the opposite effect.